There's nothing worse than anticipating a game, getting all hyped up over it, and then when you finally get your hands on it, the game is a complete sham. It wasn't what you thought it was going to be. You may even feel cheated by the game's marketing. Unfortunately, this has happened many a time in the video game industry. And today we're taking a look at some of the accused with our top 10 games that lied to our faces list. Trigger alert, this may bring back some painful memories. And at number 10 is Rise. Rise was supposed to be an epic, groundbreaking game that introduced new gameplay mechanics to the medium, specifically with combat. And while some praised it for its visuals and what it did introduce combat-wise, many, including critics, felt that it was basic. It was repetitive, and the emphasis on the graphics made the simple gameplay really irritating. But hey, some critics thought otherwise and thought it was a pretty decent game. There's also a review controversy with Microsoft that went on that also included the game, so don't know how many critics were actually legit liking the game. Just saying. And at number 9 is The Order 1886. One of the first games to be released on the PS4 when the console was brand spanking new was The Order 1886, which was marketed as a third-person action-adventure epic, set in an alternate London timeline in 1886 following the Knights of the Round Table as they fought the likes of werewolves, vampires, and government rebels. Sounds pretty neat, right? Well, when the game was released, players were disappointed, big time. The game was quite short, with cutscenes that felt as if they were taking up more of your time than the gameplay did. Up next, number 8 is Lair. Another case of marketing gone askew, Lair was promoted as a stunning fantasy game that was supposed to involve riding dragons and burning stuff to the ground and other cool RPG stuff. But when super hyped up gamers purchased it and started playing, well, the game turned out to be more of an arcade style shooter that was dressed up to look like it belonged in the fantasy genre. Just a pretty arcade game. Up next, number 7 is Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf. Sometimes it's not the game that does the misleading. Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf is a straightforward golf game, exactly what you would expect from a sports game made in 1988. But the issue wasn't the game, it was its title. Fighting Golf. The game had nothing to do with any sort of fighting. This ended up getting it a whole lot of flack, including Gaming Revolution's number 23 spot on their worst video game names of all time list. And fun fact, if you're a Simpsons fan, you may remember this low-key reference joke to the game back in the day. Up next, number 6 is Aliens Colonial Marines. The Alien franchise is beloved by fans internationally, so you bet that when a game comes out bearing its name, it's got big shoes to fill. Unfortunately, Colonial Marines didn't live up to its name. Filled with story inconsistencies that didn't match the franchise, cheap plot devices, a lack of precision and control in combat, NPCs constantly got in your way, and so many glitches, the game was just like, no. It was just so unbelievably not what people thought it was supposed to be. I mean, hey, at least we still got the films. Up next, number 5 is Project Gotham Racing. Hey, you know what would be a great letdown? Naming your game after Gotham City and having nothing to do with Gotham City or Batman or the DC franchise. That being said, the game did score some solid reviews, even to the extent that Bill Gates called it his favorite video game. But it did leave a lot of Batman fans sour when they picked it up and it had nothing to do with Gotham. To be fair, the cover has a race car on it, so. Up next, number 4 is Mercenaries 2 World in Flames. This EA game was hyped up in its marketing to be much more impressive than it turned out to be. It boasted to have the biggest in-game map of all time. It didn't. The game wouldn't have boundaries on the map. It did. Split-screen multiplayer, cars that had functioning radios in them, and much more. None of that was true. The game's release dates were even pushed back, which made it even more frustrating because the lies about the game kept building and building over time. Up next in our number 3 spot is Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 was supposed to tie the series together. All of the time, energy, and hard work that players had poured into the Mass Effect games were finally supposed to culminate in the 3rd installment. Except it didn't. It was a major letdown. Because the ending ruined the story as a whole, and it was quite irreversible. Fans felt that all of the choices they had made over the entire series were basically for nothing. Which, I suppose you could look at it in an existential way and appreciate, but that generally wasn't the consensus with players. Up next in our number 2 spot is No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky promised infinite possibilities in outer space that turned out to be more on the finite side. It was a victim of bad marketing, in which players thought the game would be something much different than what it turned out to be. While there have been updates that have ever so slightly eased the pain, there's still a long laundry list of promises that weren't followed through on. For example, landing on asteroids, destroying space stations and fleets, different ship classes, more interactions with NPCs, being able to see and play with others in the game, more diversity from the planets, and the list goes on. That being said, I do really enjoy No Man's Sky a lot, and for what it is, I think it's a fantastic game of exploration and low-risk survival, with beautiful landscapes. But that still doesn't change the fact that there were a lot of things promised that the game just never followed through on. And finally, in at number 1 is Air Raid 3. This one makes our top spot for being incredibly sleazy. So, for context, the game was published by Phoenix, who is known for its budget games, or rather what it calls value-priced games. Air Raid 3 was definitely one of those games. But here's the thing, the game was marketed as the third in its series, but Phoenix never released an Air Raid 2, let alone an Air Raid 1. So essentially they lied by calling it the third installment in order to manufacture credibility with the idea that, hey, since this is the third game in its franchise, it must be great, therefore convincing people to purchase it. And it was not great. Alright, there we have it, friends. Have you guys ever been disappointed by any of these games on our list? Are there ones on this list that you still play or would like to play? Let us know in the comments below. And if you dug this video, maybe check out some of our other gaming vids on our channel, like top 10 rarest games or top 10 video game moments that gave you chills. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I've been Kelly Pally and this has been Top 10 Gaming. I'll catch you guys in the next one.